Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at the Boeing company. This was a stock analysis request from one of the followers, and I wanted to let you know that anyone can make these requests and I will most likely cover them, especially if there is an actionable trade setup to follow. Now on this chart we don't necessarily have too much of an impulse going on in this area. We may be able to force something, but nothing too convincing. So even though we do have quite an established uptrend and it is going over more than 50 years, it is already more than 50 years since we formed this all-time low, we don't track an impulse on this chart, at least not until we have some more evidence that one may be going on, because in the end it could still form an impulse here on the larger time frame where we could see an extension where this may be instead a series of 1-2 setups all the way up here, and then we get another 1-2, and then we start an even more stronger and impulsive movement to the upside. But for now what we are tracking is the idea of a diagonal movement, a leading diagonal forming to the upside as mentioned, until we get more evidence that something more bullish may be going on. Now in that case we are tracking here an initial wave 1 up, a wave 2 down, and here in the third wave we are still looking to extend higher, where so far we have completed the wave A, the wave B, and we are in the wave C where we need to complete the entire 5-wave move to the upside, where so far we have completed the wave 1, 2, 3 and possibly 4th, and we are looking for the 5th to be unfolding. Now since this correction in the wave 4 has possibly bottomed here, we have been in a bit of a sideways action where on quite a significant amount of time, for a significant amount of time, we haven't formed any higher highs. However, we haven't formed any additional lower lows either. So we are clearly in a sideways pattern that we should be watching out for, because if we continue in this trend, once we come to the apex, we may see a more explosive movement occur. Now, if we are to have really bottomed here within the wave 4, I would be totally fine with that, because we have held the area of support that we could designate for such retracement in an ending diagonal in this wave C. This is what we are tracking in the wave C, an ending diagonal, and so far we haven't broken the latest level of support, or the last level, not the latest. And in that case we can still track this movement to the upside as a wave 5, but if we are to extend even further within this wave 4, even if we don't necessarily break the area of support, it would have to come into question, because in this correction in wave 2, it took like 2 years to actually form this entire correction. Well, if we are to afterwards form a correction for the wave 4 that takes and spans over, let's say, 10 years, it could be quite exceeding the proportions that we should normally expect for discount, and we may need to refrain from tracking this pattern exactly and adjust to a maybe more appropriate interpretation that honestly doesn't even need to be less bullish, could actually be even more bullish over the long term, or even for the short term. We may have here a 1-2 setup instead, where we have a 1-2, we get a reset here in the wave 2, and then we get an actual wave 3 to the upside. That would be even more bullish than what we are tracking right now, which is a 5th wave within an ending diagonal, where basically all we need is an ABC movement to consider this pattern largely complete. Now, within this movement that we could be tracking this area within this wave 5, we may even consider that we have already formed the A wave top, and here we actually see even the potential to be tracking this structure to the upside as a 5-wave move. Here a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a 3-wave correction, and then here, this would extend something like this, and then we would have here even another 5-wave move to the upside. So we have a couple of options in which we could be tracking this movement that is forming over here in this sideways pattern, and it would either be something like an ABC unfolding, where in the wave B we would be tracking a triangle basically, and that is the thing, the wave B can easily be a triangle, and in that scenario, well, I would actually argue that we may be nearing the completion of this pattern, because we only need to complete here the wave E. Now realistically, triangles can still extend, they could extend and extend, and if we are to even track a trend line or a couple of trend lines in this area, we could even argue that this pattern could still take many years until we reach its completion, and in that case we may need to be prepared for continued sideways, because we could form here, let's say, even a reset for the wave C, and then we need another wave D. We get a lower low, we need to reset the wave C, and then we need another wave D and the wave E, or even the wave B could see a reset, where if we break above the current wave D top, if we break above the current top here in the wave D, we would need to reset the wave B. That could also be the case if we don't manage to indeed break out directly. But as I was saying, this is one of the options that we could be tracking, and the area of support that we could be watching out for a reversal from this wave E would be here, similar to what we would be tracking for a wave 2, which is between the $190.6 all the way down to the $147.7 at the 78.6% retracement. Now, normally in triangles, we look for the 61.8% retracement as an ideal target, but clearly within this movement that has been occurring to the sideways, we have even exceeded in many of the cases the 78.6% retracement, and sometimes we have only gotten to it, but we haven't seen shallow retracements within this sideways pattern that we could be tracking here in the triangle. However, the main idea is that in the triangle, or the main rule is that in a triangle, we cannot break the previous low, meaning that if I push here to the downside in this wave E, I cannot break below the wave C. If I do that, I would actually need to relabel this and allow an extension and consider this the wave C bottom, okay? And this would basically be what I would be tracking in the idea of a triangle. But the other interpretation, what we could be tracking, well, it could be even something more bullish, because it would allow further extensions within the wave C to the upside. Now, that is not a necessity, but what we could be tracking is an A wave up, all the same here, a wave B down here instead, and then a series of 1 2 1 2 setups. But in the end, the main thing is that we would be tracking the exact same area of support for continuation to the upside in a wave 3 instead of in a wave C. So we don't necessarily need to distinguish between these interpretations. I just wanted to make it clear that we should be prepared for further corrective movement here in the sideways, and not necessarily be looking for a direct movement from a 1-2 setup. And in that case, one of the main points I want to take away from this video is that we have a couple of scenarios with an identical area of support, but we should be prepared. If we are interested in this stock, we should be prepared for extended continuation here in this sideways range. And as I was saying, this could easily extend for a significant amount of time, for example, until we get to the apex here, or until we break a high or a low. We want to see either a higher high or a lower low for more clarity, or for this triangle or this sideways movement to come quicker to an end. And for now, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.